Welcome into another edition of Voices of the Newsroom, where we shine a light on the talent here at KCTV5 every other Thursday at 11:30, right here on our streaming platforms. Reporters, anchors, and meteorologists will talk about their background, where they're from, what brought them to Kansas City, and their favorite stories that they have reported on here at KCTV5. And right now, today, I am joined by the legend himself, Neal Jones, who really needs no introduction. Neal,
let me interrupt you to tell you how much this means to me. To win this award,
yes,
like this from you is unbelievable. When I did a press release, although I didn't know the name of the award, but I just want to say that coming from you, this means even more.
I'm glad it does. You know, we've been talking about having you here on the live desk with me for some time now, and here's the opportunity.
And you know why we haven't done it?
Why?
Because you refuse to do it.
Because I don't know what you're going to say, Neal. I think that is that's where the ball drops.
But this whole thing is supposed to be live and uncensored, not even within reason.
Yeah.
And I was going to bring you on to talk about where you're from and introduce you to the audience on KC Sports Tonight, and you refused. All you did was smile, laugh, and run away.
That's what I do. I didn't run. My desk is right there, so I didn't run, but that's what I do. So for those who do not know, you probably already do, Neal brings a lot of laughs to the community as well as the station, and some of the best reporting that I have seen since I've been here the last 3 years. But for the viewers who don't really know you, Neal, how long have you been here at KCTV5? Let's start there.
Let's start with this. How old are you?
I'm going to be 27 next month.
Okay. I was hired 6 years before you were born.
Oh, wow.
I was hired in 1993.
Okay.
And I was old when I got this job. Okay. I wasn't like, 19. I was like whatever I was. So I'm really, really old.
Okay, so you have reported on a lot of different sports teams, a lot of different players, to be honest. I have to ask, I think my biggest question is, whose career have you enjoyed following the most?
Well, the easy answer would be Patrick Mahomes, because of what he and Andy Reid and the other Chiefs players, football's a team game, what they have forged since he came into the league and took over as the starter.
Right.
Unbelievable highlights, unbelievable stories, Super Bowl and postseason runs. When they don't get to the Super Bowl, it seems like something's weird. I mean, they at the very least, since he's taken over, they've gotten to the AFC Championship game. That's an unbelievable record that's challenging the best in the history of the NFL. And to be able to cover that has been a lot of fun. But there have been a lot of other great stories. When you asked me on my day off to stop what I was doing and sit down and type up a list of my favorite stories, I thought I got an award, by the way. I didn't know this is something you did with all those other people.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to get a plaque.
I'm sorry. Not yet. And we are going to come back to your favorite stories and just your career in general, but I do want to touch on what our viewers don't really get to hear about, and that's your family. You're not from KC originally. Where are you from?
I'm from Oklahoma City and lived there. Went to school at the University of Oklahoma. I was going to go to the University of Missouri, and I got a scholarship to OU, so I went to OU. My parents and grandparents were in television, so I grew up in a television and radio family.
Oh, that's interesting.
So at the dinner table, when my mom and dad talked every night, it was about what was going on at the TV station.
Yeah.
My mom was in management. She started as a secretary and got her college education, and then when the EEOC laws happened, equal opportunity laws happened, she was promoted and became in management, and she was in management for 20 years. She really took her job very seriously. My stepfather was a director and then ended up having his own TV production company for decades after that. My grandfather was an engineer. So I saw all the different aspects. Nobody was really very thrilled that I made the decision that I wanted to do journalism in college and then go into television.
No one in your family?
Yeah, my mom, she would leave stuff in my room because she was an HR director. And so she would get all these handouts saying the vast majority of journalism graduates are working as waiters or whatever. They were mowing lawns because there weren't that many jobs. And that was back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And so she wasn't thrilled. She passed away 2 years ago. And before she passed away, we used to talk on the phone when I had a game to go to in Missouri at the University of Missouri or Kansas State. So you're going to be on the road for 2 hours by yourself. I used to call her on Saturdays, and we would talk for an hour or whatever about what she was doing down in Florida where she was retired. And she told me one day, I am so glad you didn't listen to me because this job is perfect for you. You can wear shorts to work. You can yell in your office and really you don't get fired. People can throw stuff at you and it's okay because newsrooms, especially when I first got into business, were a lot more like locker rooms than they were an office. And it's changed a little bit, although I did put up I have a photograph of myself on your desk saying, I'm watching your every move, which when you read it that way sounds terrible, but that's not really, I meant I watch you on the air, right? But see, if I did that at a normal business, I'm probably...
would go to HR.
Yeah, they would explain why you don't do that to someone who's new, but...
Right. But in this career, you can be yourself. I mean, look at you with your suit jacket and shorts on set, and you get to take photos like this of your
that's Marlia. I met Marlia before she was in television.
Yeah.
She was working at the In and Out down in Fort Worth.
Oh, okay. Is that true?
No.
Okay.
It's not. It's not true. That picture right there, okay, there I am with, that's Willie Lanier. One of the great thrills, Janae, of being able to cover this team, the Chiefs, is I grew up watching them.
Right.
Those games were on in Oklahoma City on Sundays, along with the Dallas Cowboys. Those are the two teams I rooted for. And to be able to do stories with so many, there's the shorts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really nice of that floor crew person to take the picture of me. Okay, see, don't you think she has a future at In and Out if she wants to go that direction?
I don't think Marlia wants us to show that photo, so I'm going to exit out of that. But we saw the photo of you with the mask on. So you have really seen or been in this career through the ups and the downs. Would you say that was probably the most challenging part of your career was covering sports during the pandemic, or what was?
Well, it's interesting. I included that photograph because I wanted to show that I worked through it. They sent me home. They sent Gary Amble, our weatherman, home, meteorologist. Yeah. Because of a health issue. They sent me home right after him. They got him situated. They sent me home immediately afterwards because I'd had cancer and I'd had pneumonia and I'd had some doctor friends of mine call me up, see me on the air, reporting during the pandemic when it first hit. And they're like, look, you're the guy who dies from this. You're old, you've had pneumonia 3 or 4 times. I don't smoke. I'm in good health. Turns out I was allergic to something up here in the Kansas City area, and it really got me for a while. And you had cancer treatment, which means you're immunocompromised. Is that right? I don't think I pronounced that right.
Yeah, I know.
I'm in sports. We don't say that in sports. So I followed the guidelines. I wore masks, but I went out and did stories all the time, and I didn't do Zoom interviews. I would go out and interview people outside, run the cable out 15 or 20 yards away from me and yell the questions. Coach, what do you think about your defense? And Eli Drinkwitz over at the University of Missouri is like, you're going to interview me from over there? And I'm like, yeah, because I wanted to keep doing stories. And I wanted to get out and do stuff, and I was able to do that during the pandemic. But you had to do it that way. It was a challenge. My daughter shot a bunch of my stories, or she helped me shoot them, because I had to do stand-ups. And I couldn't shoot my own stand-ups unless I was right by the camera, and that doesn't look good. And I'm in my front yard, and I'm around the house. I'm doing stuff at my house, basically. So she would come out, and she'd tell me, a little to the left, Dad. Okay, stand there. And then I'd put the mic down, go roll the camera, and then I do my stand-up. That's how I had to do it. It was, and you know what? For all of us who worked through it, it seemed weird at first, but after a while you got used to it. It's like anything else.
But your story is unique, Neal, because you not only went through the COVID-19 pandemic, you also went through cancer, as you just briefly mentioned.
I thought you were going to say I went through World War II, and you survived the attack on Pearl Harbor. I'm not that old, Janae, okay?
No, but you also had cancer. And I think you were diagnosed with cancer, but yet you are still able to bring joy to so many television screens, to so many viewers here in our community. What sticks with you to just keep going? What is there like a quote or a motivation that allows you to just keep going?
I had 2 young kids, a young wife. When I was stage 4, which is the only part of it that was difficult because the type of cancer I had, they felt like they could treat. So I felt pretty confident that they could do that. It was embarrassing. I was on a feeding tube. I lost over 40 pounds. I started out about 208, and I got down to 161 pounds was the lightest I was. My wife looked at me one day. I have a feeding tube sticking out of my chest, and I didn't like to be seen like that. It was kind of embarrassing. But she walked in and she saw me, and I thought she was going to say, because she had this look on her face, and she said, "Oh my God!" And I thought she was going to say something about the feeding tube, and she said, "You have abs."
Oh my gosh,
Neal, you have abs. And I laughed. But I was able to beat it. I felt like I've had great care. You don't care about the KU Cancer Center until you need it.
Yeah.
And the specialists and the physicians that treated me were unbelievable, and I was able to make it through. I was really knocked down. I never got sick or anything, but I just had no energy. And I listened to stories that I did back in the summer of 2013 when I came back to work in July. And it's difficult to listen to because my voice was blistered, throat was blistered from radiation. And it was bad. It was so bad the assistant news director called and said, "We're going to have to do a story on you because people are calling the station saying Neal needs to go to the doctor. Something's wrong." Because you could tell I had lost so much weight. Right. And so they finally, Brad Stevens, they wanted to send somebody out who was really sensitive, but they weren't available. So they sent Brad to my house, and he interviewed my wife and interviewed me, and signed autograph for the kids. It was really exciting. But listen, Janae, that people look at you, "Oh, you beat cancer." I didn't beat cancer. The people that treated me beat cancer. I do talk about it quite a bit now because I get phone calls or social media messages from people saying, "I just got diagnosed with the same thing you had. They told me that I could call you," because I told the doctors, have people call. So people will call, and I bet there's 7 or 8 times a year I get phone calls from people who are being treated for the same type of cancer I had. And I just kind of give them don't worry, just do what the doctor tells you, and you might not be able to eat. My one piece of advice was to get a feeding tube. It sounds terrible. It's not terrible at all. And I was able to, nobody knows you have it. It's under your clothes and everything. And so I don't run and I don't hide from the fact that I had cancer, but it's not a badge of honor either. I'm just like a lot of people who get it. And there were a lot of people who had it a lot worse than I did.
And your story has helped and is still helping so many people, not only here in our community, but I'm sure beyond that we don't even know about. So, Neal, again, I just want to take the time to thank you for sharing that.
And the people at the station were fabulous.
Yeah.
They voted on whether to send me a card to get well. And I heard that it was like 48-13, so I was honored. But then I found out that 48 voted against sending me a card, and the general manager said overruled them by saying that's terrible.
This is what's happening.
So I got a great message saying we voted on this and they voted against it, but here's the card. It was the funniest thing that happened the whole time I was sick.
So he's still able to bring the laughs despite it all. Neal, your top 5 segments have been huge here in KC. Before I let you go, I have to ask about favorite barbecue spot, favorite Mexican spot. What did you love covering the most? And just tell us favorite places to go.
Well, those top 5s, we had a news director came in and said, "We did this at our old station. I want you to do it." And I'm like, "Well, I'm in sports." And I thought he was going to slap me. And he goes, "Of course I know you're in sports, but I think you'll do a good job." And one of the things I trust my reporting when it comes to sports. That does not mean I don't make mistakes. But you just have to try to be the best you can. And if you make a mistake, admit to it and move on. I'm covering sports. It's not world peace.
Right.
I'm not covering politics. I'm not covering all that stuff. I'm covering sports. And so the mistakes are generally not the kind of stuff that's going to get you sued. But you try to get it right. But I don't really worry about that. I found that when I did those pieces, like the top 5, Mexican places or the top 5 barbecue places. I better try to get it right, because I was going to run into people in the community for the next couple of years, and they were going to come up and say, hey, I ate at that place and I hated it, or I went to that place, it was great, or you left out the best place in town, and stuff like that. And so I had a lot of fun doing it, but at the same time, you knew
you were going to hear from people.
That you were going to hear people, yay or nay, on people.
So I'm a huge Mexican food person. So right now, on the spot, Neal, favorite Mexican spot?
Well, it's a place down on our number 1 place. I had 2 that could have been, both of them were great. One was down on like Holmes, down in Kansas City, South Kansas City.
Okay.
And I don't know the name of it. I didn't prepare for this. Unbelievable food.
Okay.
We've gone there forever. But then there was another place down on Main Street, or no, Main Street, down right by the Kauffman Center, that we go to. My wife and I go to both of those places, and we love them.
Still.
You can't go wrong. Unbelievable.
Okay, barbecue.
Barbecue. I didn't go with the famous places. I think everybody knows about Gates and Arthur Bryant's and stuff like that, and I love them, and that's where I go. But I went with some like Slaps over in KCK.
That's your number 1?
It's one of. I mean, they're all, to me, it's like children. How do you pick your favorite child? I mean, we do have a favorite child, but you don't say it publicly.
I think we say it publicly here in the newsroom a lot.
I bet. Are you your parents' favorite child?
I like to think so.
I mean, you're so sweet and pleasant. You would probably win by default, even if you were less accomplished than your siblings. What are your siblings do?
We'll talk about that later. But yes, I feel like I am the favorite child. Second favorite barbecue spot.
Very, very good. And the other question I have is, what you work on the OTT desk, right?
The live desk, we call it on air. Yes.
How did you learn how to do this?
How did this turn into you interviewing me, Neal?
Well, that's what I do. I'm a journalist. I had no respect for you at all for a long time. And then I saw what you had to do, and you're so good at it. I was like, and I've told you this, I had no idea this job was so complicated. You're like half engineer. You have to write and produce. You have to pull in. It's unbelievable what you do.
Well, I appreciate that.
And you might think of that when you edit this. How much I like you.
Yes. We might cut some things out, but we do. I will take that piece. I love that. Okay, Neal. Before I let you go, you told me a few stories that are your favorite that you've reported on here. I do want to start off with the 2015 Royals win. Tell me a little bit more about that experience and covering it.
That was a big, big deal because the Royals had been so bad until 14. And in 2014, they got to the World Series and lost in Game 7 in dramatic fashion. And then to win it all 1 year later was such a wonderful moment for this entire community. Then they had, in November, they had a World Series parade that had 800,000 people on a gorgeous 75-degree day in November. It was the most shocking thing I've ever seen weather-wise. The good Lord smiled on Kansas City that day. That was an unbelievably positive thing, no question about it. It brought the community together.
Yeah, and then moving on, you talk about something being positive. I know something that wasn't so positive, but that will stick with you forever is this right here on our screens. Last year, February 14th, the Chiefs rally shooting.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest story nationally that I've been a part of. And it also, Janae, it was different, and we see the victim there with her family.
Yeah.
But what made that so different was my photographer, Greg Malota, and I were waiting right there in that intersection, and we're facing that way, getting ready to move forward and start interviewing people in the crowd when the shooting happened. So Greg and I were more than journalists, we were eyewitnesses.
Right.
I've never, ever covered a breaking news story like that where I was an eyewitness. Yeah. You know what I mean? And there's the daughter of the victim right there. And it happened all right in front of us.
Yeah.
And it happened, it was horrific. That's the video that Greg shot as the people went running right up there for us. But we were facing that way and getting ready to move that direction. And it was unbelievable. I had a gentleman who works, he's a television engineer, and he was, his production company was doing the rally as they were providing all the cameras and stuff. He told me later, you have no idea how close you got to being shot, Neal, because I was standing there, saw the gunman. He wheeled around and he was facing you, and you stood out because you're tall and you were on a slightly incline, a rise where the road went up. And so you and your photographer were right there, and I saw that, and I thought, he's going to shoot Neal Jones. This guy's going to shoot Neal Jones. Instead, he wheeled back around and shot the other direction and shot a gentleman who was standing right with the man who told me this story. I had nothing. I didn't know that. I found that out, weeks and weeks later. And at the time, I didn't feel like I was in danger at all. But so it was just a bizarre setting. The lead story on CBS Evening News that night with Norah McDonald was the shooting, and they had me report it and go on with her, and in some respects that was the biggest story I've been a part of nationally. But I think all of us, that affected all of us in Kansas City. Even if you didn't go to the rally, it affected you because it raises the question, should I take my kids out in public to events like that? Should I go to concerts? Should I go to other stuff? Thankfully, we've had a number of things we've done. Did you go to the 4th of July deal? Do they have you out for that?
Not last year.
Okay.
But I know, anxiety's still there.
Well, but we didn't, but I didn't worry. I don't know about I don't think the people I was with at Channel 5, I think we were all cognizant something could happen, but I don't think anybody was worried. We just went about our business, and hopefully, hopefully that does not happen again. It probably will, something like that, but let's hope not.
And you know what, Neal, before we move on, going back to this aftermath, we actually did a special documentary on this to mark the 1 year on February 14th of this year. And during that documentary, you said something that stuck with me, and that is, you will never be the same person. You're not the same guy that you were last year around that time. Can you kind of dive a little bit deeper into that as well?
Well, you're taking it out of context, because I don't know, in a 15 or 20 minute interview, I said that. I think one thing that changed for me is, and there it is, my wife was at that event. We took our children to the World Series parade, so they were with us. They were in like grade school or middle school, and everybody was there. I was working, but they were there, and I was with them when went over and see them and stuff. And they were both in college, so they were not at the parade, the Super Bowl parade, but my wife was there. And we both have talked about it. I don't know that I would take my children or want my family to be at an event like that because of the scenes we're seeing there. People running. Most of us have heard a string of firecrackers go off. Pop, 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 pop. That's what it sounded like. And I turned to my photographer, Greg Malota, and said, "Is that fireworks?" And Greg said, "I think it is." And then we saw people going down immediately, and we knew this is not fireworks. This is shooting, and
right in the middle.
It was horrible to see so many wounded people, to see so many people who were with their. Janae, these are the people that I've covered for 33 years. These are Chiefs fans
that you covered that morning.
A bunch of them had come up. That was the 3rd year I'd been basically at that spot in the parade. So I had met people. I saw people that I interview on Sundays at Arrowhead Stadium. I think that is what really resonated. These weren't just people wearing red. These weren't just fans. A lot of these people came up, "Hey, Neal, you interviewed me last year out at Arrowhead before a game," or "You interviewed me at a Chiefs rally," or "You interviewed me last year at the parade." And I saw so many of the same people, and I recognized them because they were in the same spot as a year ago. These ladies were all up there on this. They were the smartest ones. They got there real early, like at 4:30, 4:45 in the morning. They set out lawn chairs, brought a bunch of blankets, and sat down up on this little rise so it was like they were like in the front row. They were going to be able to see everything, and I got to interview you guys again. I interviewed y'all last year. So I did a live shot with them, and they were real nice. And I saw them. I saw 2 of them running, and they're in their 70s. They're running in terror, and you had three generations. You have grandparents, parents, and kids trying to get out away from the shooting, and no one knew how many guns there were. And you didn't know where the gunfire was coming from. That part of me, I will never forget. Just the sense of, we didn't know it, but we have put ourselves and our families, our loved ones, in harm's way. We're at the wrong place at the wrong time, and that's a horrible thing. I did television and radio in the days after that all over the world. And to try to talk to people in Scotland or England where they have very, very strict gun laws. And they're like, how many shootings are there in Kansas City? I said, I think there are over 100 fatalities, I think, last year. And they said, just in Kansas City? And I said, yes. They said, there weren't 100 fatalities in all of the British Isles. And I said, I know, it's a different culture. It just is. And I tried to explain to them that we live with this, but I don't know about you. I don't think about getting shot all the time. But you try to be careful about where you go. So it's hard to explain it to people in Australia or England and some of these other countries. And they're like, how do you live there? And I'm like, it's not as, I don't think it's as bad as it seems, but the numbers are kind of frightening.
Well, Neal, I do want to end on a positive note. As far as our viewers are concerned, before we end, I do want to go to our website, kctv5.com, where you can follow that story. You can find that story and our coverage on everything that happened last year during the Chiefs rally shooting, as well as other stories that Neal has reported on. But Neal, what's your final message for our viewers before I let you go here?
Well,
today?
just how lucky I've been. Janae, the Chiefs, Royals, KU, K-State, Missouri, the Sporting KC, the KC Current fans, the high school fans, the fans, those people right there, their passion is real, and their passion is why this is a good job. This is why this is a great television market for sports, because these fans, they are all in. We are a city that's divided by a state line, and that, for when I moved up here, that was a real stumbling block. Nothing could get done. The money was all in Johnson County, they said, and they don't have any stadiums. They're not going to pay for the stadium. There was no way to harness that money and be able to build a better stadium. Well, they built the arena thanks to a historic by-state tax. Never been done before, that residents of one state would give money to another state for the good of the community. And that's what happened. And since then, you've seen more and more good things happen. They built that beautiful arena downtown, the T-Mobile Center. We've kept the Big 12 and NCAA tournaments coming in, along with concerts and a lot of other things. We see stuff going into KCK. That was a terrible area. And that, having Sporting KC there and the businesses that went out there along with it, have been a huge success story. We can all, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, whether you're a KU or an MU or a K-State fan, whether you live in Kansas or Missouri, our teams, our sports teams, can bring us all together. If we're out there on a Sunday wearing red or out at Kauffman Stadium wearing blue, nobody cares where you're from. They don't care who you voted for. We're all rooting for the same thing. So that's why it's been such a great place to work, and I feel very, very fortunate. And I just want to say, I've enjoyed working with you. I was tremendously disappointed. I wrote a heartfelt message to your family to take home at Christmas.
For the holidays, yes.
You refused to take it and read it to them. I was disappointed by that. But in all other ways, it's been an honor to work with you.
You also blamed me for the Chiefs losing this past Super Bowl, but we will move past
that. Yes. And who do you root for?
We're going to leave that out as well. But Neal, it is always a pleasure, and you brought so much joy to so many people here in our community, and I know it will continue through your stories and just seeing you out in the community. So thank you again for joining me for Voices of the Newsroom.
And thank you for having me on.
Of course, and again, for all of our viewers, Voices of the Newsroom, this is where we get to shine a light on the talent here at KCTV5. You can tune in every other Thursday at 11:30 right here on our streaming platforms, and we'll meet you right back here with Gianni Navarro on May 1st.